Welcome to the unintended fourth part of 2nd Chronicles. Once again, camera batteries have died, so I had to split this again. This is a tough time in this ministry with this cheap camera. But we will press on. But Josiah refused to listen to Necho, to whom God had indeed spoken. And he would not turn back. Instead, he disguised himself and led his army into battle in the plain of Megiddo. But the enemy archers hit King Josiah with their arrows and wounded him. He cried out to his men, "Take me from the battle, for I am badly wounded." So they lifted Josiah out of his chariot and placed him in another chariot. Then they brought him back to Jerusalem, where he died. He was buried there in the royal cemetery, and all Judah and Jerusalem mourned for him. The prophet Jeremiah composed funeral songs for Josiah, and to this day choirs still sing these and sad songs about his death. These songs of sorrow have become a tradition and recorded in the Book of Laments. The rest of the events of Josiah's reign and his acts of devotion, carried out according to what was written in the law of the Lord, from beginning to end, all are recorded in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. Then the people in the land took Josiah's son Jehoahaz and made him the next king in Jerusalem. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. Then he was deposed by the king of Egypt, who demanded that Judah pay 7,500 pounds of silver and 75 pounds of gold as tribute. The king of Egypt then installed Eliakim, the brother of Jehoahaz, as the next king of Judah and Jerusalem, and he changed Eliakim's name to Jehoiakim. Then Necho took Jehoahaz to Egypt as a prisoner. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God. Then King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to Jerusalem and captured it. And he bound Jehoiakim in bronze chains and led him away to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also took some of the treasures from the temple of the Lord, and he placed them in his palace in Babylon. The rest of the events of Jehoiakim's reign, including all the evil things he did and everything found against him, are recorded in the books of the kings of Israel and Judah. Then his son Jehoiakim became the next king. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months and 10 days. Jehoiakim did what was evil in the Lord's sight. In the spring of that year, King Nebuchadnezzar took Jehoiakim to Babylon. Many treasures from the temple of the Lord were also taken to Babylon at that time. And Nebuchadnezzar installed Jehoiakim's uncle, Zedekiah, as the next king in Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God, and refused to humble himself, and the prophet Jeremiah spoke to him directly from the Lord. He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, even though he had taken an oath of loyalty in God's name. Zedekiah was a hard and stubborn man, refusing to turn to the Lord, the God of Israel. Likewise, all the leaders and the priests of the people became more and more unfaithful. They followed all the pagan practices of the surrounding nations, desecrating the temple of the Lord that had been consecrated in Jerusalem. The Lord, the God of their ancestors, repeatedly sent his prophets to warn them, for he had compassion on his people and his temple. But the people mocked these messengers of God and despised their words. They scoffed at the prophets until the Lord's anger could no longer be restrained, and nothing could be done. So the Lord brought the king of Babylon against them. The Babylonians killed Judah's young men, even chasing after them into the temple. They had no pity on the people, killing both young men and young women, the old and the infirm. God handed all of them over to Nebuchadnezzar. The king took home to Babylon all the articles, large and small, used in the temple of God, and the treasures from both the Lord's temple and from the palace of the king and his officials. Then his army burned the temple of God, tore down the walls of Jerusalem, burned all the palaces, and completely destroyed everything of value. The few who had survived were taken as exiles to Babylon, and they became servants to the king and his sons until the kingdom of Persia came to power. So the message of the Lord spoken through Jeremiah was fulfilled. The land finally enjoyed its Sabbath rest, lying desolate until the 70 years were fulfilled, just as the prophet had said. In the first year of King Cyrus of Persia, the Lord fulfilled the prophecy he had given through Jeremiah. He stirred the heart of Cyrus to put this proclamation in writing and send it throughout his kingdom. This is what King Cyrus of Persia says: "The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth. He has appointed me to build him a temple at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Any of you who are the Lord's people may go there for this task, and may the Lord your God be with you." So that's the end of 2nd Chronicles, and we can see that that's just sort of a retelling of, from a different perspective, of the stories of Samuel and Kings, stories of David and Solomon and kings that followed, Jeroboam and Rehoboam, Asa, Jehoshaphat, Josiah, who did bad, and they finally got what was coming to them. God's judgment that He had been promising these people over and over, finally came upon them. Judah and Jerusalem were destroyed. They're in exile. 70 years later, after the prophecy had been fulfilled, God allows them to return through Cyrus, king of Persia. And basically that's where we pick up on the next story. The next book of the Bible is Ezra, which picks right up from the end of 2nd Chronicles, where the Jews are allowed to return home and start rebuilding the temple. So again, the Chronicles are written by Ezra after the Jews were allowed to return home and rebuild. Ezra wrote Chronicles to sort of spur them up. So that's what's going on here. I'd just like to say, I don't collect any money from anybody for this ministry, so I have some primitive equipment, and this video was supposed to be 2 parts, no more than 2 parts. The camera batteries keep dying, so it ended up being 4 parts. Obviously I had to change the batteries just to redo the final chapter, so I'm sorry that there's so many videos that you have to click on and go through if you want to listen to this, but I appreciate very much anybody who's willing to go through that trouble and enjoys this enough to do that. So thank you, and God bless you. We will see you with the book of Ezra.